All right, we'll go ahead and get right to your questions.
It sure seemed like Evansville did a good job, certainly in the first half, of making things difficult for you guys to score outside the three-point line. Not the first time this year that an opponent's used that strategy against you guys. So how comfortable is the team getting when they know that those points outside the three-point line are going to be a lot harder to come by?
Yeah, and that's there's a couple things with that. One, Evansville, or maybe generally speaking, there's teams that are going to play it that way no matter who they're playing against. Whether it's whether it's us or anybody else, that's the way they play. And Missouri State has been that way in the short time that Dana's been there. Evansville is a team that wants to take away 3-point attempts. So a lot of times it comes down to who you're playing against, and so I bring that up, Cole. So it's one of those things that you have a pretty good idea going into the game. So it allows you, whether you've got one or two practice opportunities, it allows you those opportunities to work against what you're going to see. And the where it helps is, and I've referred to this, quite a few times, having a group of guys that have been together. And we've talked a lot about, and you've asked about the offense and the evolution of it, and now being in the second year. And so if a team, as we saw with Evansville, if they're going to stretch out when we drive it, if they're going to stretch out and take away the catch and shoot stuff, these guys have been through that now for more than just a handful of games or more than just this year. We saw some of it a year ago. That makes a big difference. So when we go into practice and we look at the film and say, okay, this is how they're going to guard it. They're going to stretch out. They're going to take away the catch and shoot stuff. You're going to be playing 2-on-2 against the center and against the guy guarding the basketball. And so we can spend some time on it. But that's something we've been doing now for not just this year and not just on a 2-day prep. And we were doing it with these guys a year ago. That's where I think it helps us to not feel like, okay, what are we going to do if they take these away? Or what are we going to do if they double Fife? Or what are we going to do if they run and double AJ? Like, it helps having a group of guys that are a little bit older and a group of guys that have played together. So when we do see the different stuff, we know what we're looking at. We know what we got to get done.
You hold them to 16 in the first half, and they get 52 in the second half. Just how do you kind of how much you love defense? How do you balance that out? That that's okay.
Yeah, I mean Nick might need to go back and take a check here. I think it's the earliest I've used my timeouts. I don't think we've been out with 8 minutes left. I can't remember a time when we've been out. I don't know if you can, Gary. I mean, it would jump out to us, right, if it had been anything around that 10-minute mark that we've been out of timeouts. And all three of them were used to talk about defense. Evansville's 8 for 8 to start the second half. Some of them were good plays on their part. Give them credit. They came out of halftime and they made some shots. They made some plays, and that's always going to be part of it, right? The team you're playing against, and some of it was some mistakes that we made. And so, we weren't. And when I say we, our entire group, coaches, players, like all of us. There wasn't anybody that was real thrilled at the 10-minute mark of the second half just because they were Evansville was scoring. So you give them credit, for what they did and their ability to make some plays and make some shots and put themselves in a position to, be in position to win that game. With 4 or 5 minutes left, they had a 3 to cut it to 4. They'd already cut it to 4 once. So yeah, give them credit for the way they played. But there's, from our standpoint, not being able to dig in, and as I told the guys, you got when it's sitting at that point, can you get it to 20 before they get it to 10? I mean, you got your opposite ends of the spectrum. If it's a 20-point game at the first media timeout of the second half, or a 10-point game, right? It's two totally different deals. So we didn't meet that challenge. Again, we got to, if we're in that situation again, we got to do a better job.
Austin Fife, AJ Green as the sophomore gets a lot of the attention, but Fife, a redshirt sophomore, 19 minutes, 16 points. Just how valuable has he become to this team this season?
His efficiency at the offensive end is at a level that you don't see very often. His numbers, that field goal percentage. The thing that and then he gives us that presence defensively. Physical enough and moves well enough. But I still go back to the two things about having Fife back. One, his impact on his teammates, his impact on us as coaches, his impact on the feel of what we're doing in film, on the practice floor, getting on the plane, just seeing him in the hallway, hey, coach, what's going on? And he's got a smile on his face no matter what scenario I just described with where we're at. That's number one. And number two, he's just got a tremendous work ethic. I mean, he's playing as hard as he can all the time. And that, you can't put a point value on that. So super efficient. Love what he's doing. But just, man, it's just great having him back for the two reasons I just mentioned, Gary.
Do you suppose it's a growing level of comfort in the offense, or maybe it's more complicated than that, his ability to have that field goal percentage? Because that's usually the type of field goal percentage you see upperclassmen bigs in this league achieve. And he seems to be able to, put the ball on the deck and get over his right or left shoulder if he's one-on-one anytime he wants. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot going into some really good decision-making there.
Yeah, for him, he worked hard. He worked hard on being able to come back to that right hand. As a freshman, it was going to be left hand, and it was only going to be left hand. And so he worked hard. Even though he sat out last year and he missed a big chunk of last year, even the practice time and the individual workouts, in the time that he did have, and then heading into this year, he's worked hard on that right hand so that he can come back to it. That's been a big part of his development, and KG's done a great job with him, and the rest of the staff. They've worked hard on that to have that be a part of the way that he plays offensively, and then I give him a ton of credit. I mean, you love having guys that don't make it about them. That it's not about, hey, I'm shooting almost 70%, throw me the ball more. Like, he doesn't. He just wants us to win. And so the comfort level with the offense is important. One of the things that I'm seeing, I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing, but like his conditioning and the way he's playing and the confidence he's playing with, like every 10 days to 2 weeks, that keeps getting better. Like he's going in a really good direction, and so I think that adds to that that efficiency. Yeah, he's just doing a lot of things right.
One more. How much impact has Seth had on Austin? Because not that Seth was the first one to ever do it, but there's some footwork from Austin this year where it sure looks very similar to some of the footwork that Seth had in this game lately.
Yeah, and then in that role that he's in, he's able to be on the floor as a graduate manager and be a part of the workouts with KG and the other coaches, and that has an impact. As a former player and as a guy who was an All-American and a highly efficient player, you talk about guys that are unselfish and make it about the team. Like I talked about a lot when he was playing for us. He would have much rather pass the basketball than shoot the basketball. And I think we can all see it, if we think about some of the catches he had on the block, and he's right by the rim and he's throwing it out to Bohannon or Jesperson. He would much rather have had an assist than shoot the ball. And so it isn't the footwork, the ability to score it, that efficiency, very important to their development, but just being around him. For these young guys that are in our program right now, and Austin, who we're talking about, but those, and at all positions, just to be around a guy who's extremely unselfish, just wants the team to win, doesn't care if he scores, like doing all that and still being an All-American, that's been beneficial for all the guys.
Austin's one of the big reasons why you're one of the top, or the top defensive rebounding team in the league. His ability to get to the ball. You've only been out-rebounded, I think, 3 games this year.
Yeah, his the combination of his size, his mobility, and then the activity and how hard he plays. That's and one of the things that we talked about with Austin is because if you tell Austin to sit in that chair right there, he's going to sit in that chair right there until you tell him to do something else. If you tell Austin to block out, he's going to block out until you tell him to do something else. And if you tell him to go get the ball, he's just going to go get the ball. Like he's going to do whatever we ask of him. And one of the things that we've talked about in the last 2 or 3 weeks is blocking out and getting off the block out to go get the ball. And he's done a great job of that. Before that we talked a lot about blocking out, and he was doing an unbelievable job of that, but he wasn't getting off the block out to go get a ball. And so he's worked hard at that the last 2-3 weeks, and that's helped his numbers.
You're catching Valpo in the rematch.
Yeah, so Fazekas is back. I think he's 10 of 21 from 3 in the last 3. I've got it right here. In the last 4 games. He started one of them, and he's 10 of 21 from the 3-point line, and so that adds a That adds an elite level shooter to their lineup that we saw here in a game that we got off to the great start. But by the time we got to halftime, they had pushed it out they had turned it on us. We had a double-digit lead early, and they had turned it on us and had that 10 or 12-point lead without Fazekas, a guy that can really, really shoot it. So it stretches the floor, makes it more challenging to defend Freeman Liberty, and I could list the guys off that we saw. I mean, it's a really good group of guys that they can all make a three-point shot. Clay and Freeman Liberty and a couple other guys that can post you up, and then they've got guys that are driving it. And so a challenging team, challenging roster to defend. And then defensively, I was just penciling it out here. I mean, they're 14 turnovers a game they're causing. They're getting 8 steals a game. A lot of times those steals, as we saw in our game, those steals are turning into points before you can get your defense back. And so a lot of challenges at both ends. They've won 2 of their last 3. The one that they got beat in was at Bradley, and it's a heck of a game. And they gave Bradley everything they wanted on their home floor. So in their last 3, they won 2 of them and gave Bradley a terrific game the other day. So, a lot to deal with. Anybody else? Good. All right, thanks.